I like Star Wars. I grew up with the movies, I played the video games, I bought the Lego toys. One time I accidentally ate a whole pack of Baby Yoda chapstick. Recently I rewatched all 9 of the main Star Wars movies. I like all of them, at least a little bit, but to be honest, in terms of actual quality, it's more of a mixed bag. Most of them were okay at best, and some of them were pretty stinky. Now I expected this going in. What I didn't expect was for perhaps my least favorite part of the whole series to actually come from the original trilogy, which everybody seems to like, including me. I'll just tell you about it now. The worst twist in all of Star Wars comes from Return of the Jedi. It's this bit.
Leia. Leia's my sister.
Yeah, you know Star Wars, you know why this is weird. It's established earlier in the preceding 2 movies that Luke Skywalker is very much attracted to Princess Leia. When they first meet on the Death Star in A New Hope, they have this glamour shot of her that's obviously supposed to signal that Luke has eyes for this woman, among many other signs, including the fact that they fully actually kiss in The Empire Strikes Back. In those first 2 movies, it's obvious that they wanted to have some friction between the 3 main characters by establishing a love triangle wherein Luke Skywalker and Han Solo both vie for Leia's affections. I don't think this romance subplot was ever super amazing in those movies, but I highly doubt the writers ever meant for it to be secretly incestuous. I do have a theory as to why the writers on the 3rd movie made this decision. So in The Empire Strikes Back, a couple of twists happen. In that movie, Luke sees a premonition of his companions in danger and abandons his training with Master Yoda to rescue them. Yoda is disappointed by this because having earthly attachments and acting on premonitions leads to the dark side. The extremely dead Ben Kenobi appears as a ghost and says,
"That boy is our last hope."
To which Yoda responds,
"There is another."
So I guess there's someone else they know of who can use the Force and who could take Luke's place if he turns evil or whatever. Sounds interesting. Luke's rescue goes horribly wrong and he ends up fighting Darth Vader, who reveals to him that he's his father? Which is crazy and of course becomes the most famous movie twist in the history of the human race. So when the next movie came around, the writers had to follow up on who that other potential hero is. But I suspect they also wanted to recapture the cultural waves they made with the I am your father twist, though that's only speculation. The solution was to make Leia the other potential Jedi, which might have been fine. It seems like they laid the groundwork for it in Empire when Luke speaks to her telepathically, implying that she can use the Force. But because Star Wars is now famous for its earth-shattering, pants-shitting twist that an established character is secretly related to Luke, they felt the need to also make Leia Luke's twin sister? Okay, but what about all that other stuff that happened in the last 2 movies? Are we just gonna ignore that? Yes, we are. I'm gonna be 100% mask off real. I think the revelation that Princess Leia is related to Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader is potentially the worst creative decision period of the original trilogy, and maybe even the worst in all of Star Wars. Maybe. If not the worst idea, it is probably the most destructive one. Not only does it retroactively taint the past few movies at least a little bit by marrying the whole trilogy with the undercurrent of incest, it also paves the way for a lot of bad decisions in future movies. I mean, even if you ignore how weird it makes everything, it's just not a very good twist. It doesn't really add much to the story or go anywhere. The bit about her secretly being a Jedi ends up meaning nothing because Luke succeeds, so she never has to take his place. And she doesn't even really use the Force at all. She didn't use that shit for 30 more years. The only payoff it gets, as far as I'm aware, is in this scene where Darth Vader reads Luke's mind. He finds out about Leia and threatens to turn her to the dark side, which pisses Luke off so much that he almost kills him. It is a big turning point in the story, but I just don't see why she had to be related to them for that to make sense. Why couldn't she have just been a secret Jedi who wasn't related? It's not like Luke likes her more or that she's necessarily more important to him just because she's his sister now. They're already close friends, so this scene would still make perfect sense even if they had no relation. The only things this Leia twist does change is A, it makes the galaxy of Star Wars feel very, very small, and B, it creates a series-spanning precedent that everybody important must be related. I mean, starting with point A, we now have 3 main recurring characters out of like 7 total who are all coincidentally related when we were previously led to believe that they each came from vastly different places and backgrounds. Vader and Luke was an unexpected twist, but not necessarily a coincidence because we had Obi-Wan, who knew both of them and who actively pushed Luke towards Vader. Leia being a secret Skywalker is a much crazier jump to make. This shit takes place in space, okay? It's not Scranton, Iowa, population 500, where you could potentially find out that an old friend is also your long-lost twin. It's gosh darn space, or at least it's supposed to be. And I know you could explain this all away as the work of destiny. Like, obviously this coincidence is believable if you imagine that the gods of the Star Wars universe willed this estranged family to unknowingly come back together and act out the story. I'm sure that's kind of what they were going for, since Star Wars is supposed to be an ancient heroes myth and all that crap, and those are often about fate. But here it feels shoehorned and frankly uninspired, and it overall does more harm than good to this story. But let's just play along and accept that the Force acts in mysterious ways and that it was all destiny. This also has some weird ramifications. Let's go back to point B, which is the idea that this twist creates a series-spanning precedent that everyone important must be related. This is specifically about characters that can use the Force, who seem to always be the main heroes of Star Wars that do all the most important shit. When Return of the Jedi established that the second last hope for the universe was another Skywalker, it created this meme within Star Wars that the Skywalker family is this special predestined chosen bloodline who are the arbiters of the fate of the universe because they can use space magic. I don't think this was originally supposed to be the case going off the first two movies. Luke was a new hope before we even knew he was related to Darth Vader. While he was the classic hero going on a journey, he wasn't necessarily the chosen one. Really, he was just the last able-bodied guy left who could use the Force. The only other two guys were elderly and also dead. He was just kind of the only person who could save the galaxy because he could hypothetically fight the Emperor. You get the idea that if there were other Jedi around, they probably potentially could have done the job just as well. While Luke was special because he had special powers that few else in his universe did, he was hardly unique. But as per this twist, he's now part of a super special bloodline around which the entire universe seems to revolve. And that's one of the most unintentionally damaging things this twist did, was create this cultural expectation that the Skywalkers must be special, and anyone special must be a Skywalker, because apparently the universe loves these f***ing homies. It corrupts not only the original trilogy, but future trilogies as well. It's why in the prequels, Darth Vader couldn't just be one Jedi out of 1,000 who happened to turn evil at some point. He had to be the chosen one who was born to a virgin with the most midichlorians, who murders all the Jedi and is just at the center of everything, which seems overblown when you remember that he was just a generic bad guy in the originals. It's also why I think the sequels are so damn confused, is because they struggled with whether or not they were going to follow the pattern set by this twist. The Force Awakens followed it, and fetishized the Skywalkers as the super special Jedi bloodline, and made the main villain one of them. It also established the main character Rey to have a mysterious past and an unexplained talent with the Force. So of course, one would naturally fill in the gaps and assume she's descended from the Skywalkers or some other powerful bloodline, because this is Star Wars and that's the rule. Then the next movie, directed and written by a different person, tried to actually challenge the unwritten Skywalker rule, and honestly took things in a way better direction by answering those questions, saying that her parents are actually nobody important, and the Force doesn't care about your stupid bloodline. Rey is just an anomaly, and anybody can magically be super powerful with the Force. I think that's a really positive change for reasons I've already explained, and it makes perfect sense when you think about the themes of this trilogy. Much care was taken to build a racially and sexually diverse cast of characters for these movies so more viewers could feel included. So logically, this movie declares that any type of person could have the Force and be special. I think that makes sense. I think it makes the Force feel less incestuous, and I don't think it was done to superficially subvert expectations like I once did. But since The Last Jedi ended up being rejected by the wider audience, for a lot of reasons that I think are actually valid, the people behind the final movie in this trilogy felt the need to undo almost everything it established with the hope that it would win back goodwill from the fans. Among these retractions was the twist that Rey is nobody. Now she's somebody. She's the granddaughter of Emperor Palpatine, which is obviously ridiculous. She's only important because she's descended from a powerful Force-using character, and the final battle is all about lineage and is mired in the same Skywalker crap as it always is. It's a generic retread of the original trilogy at best. I know these characters aren't technically Skywalkers, but you can easily see how it's following the same template. The universe of Star Wars has reverted back to this tiny place where every important person is secretly related and magically gravitates back to the center to once again decide the fate of the universe. I actually don't think this movie is the worst thing ever, but the story is so lame. As for the Leia twist, I hope you can see what I mean when I say it's the most damaging choice they ever made. It's not the dumbest thing Star Wars has ever done, and I obviously don't think it's the reason why the Star Wars movies went downhill. That's definitely more because the filmmakers on later movies were kind of all over the place and made a bunch of silly decisions. I think it's just a bad call that some writers made decades ago that happened to have a bigger effect on their franchise than one could have ever foreseen, one which would hang over the creation of future movies and impact their choices for the worst. I feel like this video might make me come off like I hate Star Wars. Again, I don't, but these movies can be really weird. Do you agree with my points in this video? Was there anything I missed? Do I have stormtrooper brain? Leave a comment and please be considerate of others when you do. Take it easy.